Well, hey there, my friend. Welcome back to the Creative Shop Talk podcast. Today, I have a guest for us. I have invited a member of my Level Up Mastermind group, Cindy Boissonneault. She's also a member of my Retailers Inner Circle program. She's a very active member in both those programs. And Cindy's from Winnipeg, Manitoba, and she owns a creative bead store. There's workshops and supplies. And we're going to talk today, and she shares a little bit about how she navigates those different multiple facets of her business. She has different areas of how she's creating revenue inside that business. And she shares a little bit about how she became, I guess, an accidental entrepreneur, much like many of us. One thing led to another, and next thing you know, you're running a retail business, maybe without any original experience. And I have loved watching Cindy grow this business. She's stepped fully into her role of CEO, and now she is the visionary and leader and running the business so she's able to travel and do different things. And she's growing it with purpose and growing it with intention and to what she wants for the future of her business. So this is a great podcast episode for you to listen to if you are trying to navigate all of those things and really stepping into that role of CEO. All right, my friends, thanks for listening. Let's get to my conversation with Cindy Boissonneault from Poco Inspired. Running a retail business doesn't have to be so hard. Welcome to the Creative Shop Talk podcast, the go-to podcast for creative shop owners, studio owners, and independent retailers. I'm your host, Wendy Batten, retail business coach and mentor. Each week, I'll share simple, proven business strategies, inspiring stories from fellow retailers, and advice from industry experts. Together, we're going to work to find the success you want from your retail business with more profits in your till and a little more joy in your life. Welcome, Cindy, to the Creative Shop Talk podcast. I am so happy you're here. Welcome.
Well, thank you.
I have invited Cindy on, and I invited you on, I guess I should say, because you have such a wealth of information for retailers. I enjoy our conversations. I have enjoyed watching you grow and thrive and be present and dedicated to wearing that CEO hat, as I like to say, in your business. So tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey and introduce yourself.
Okay, well, I'm Cindy. I'm the owner and CEO of Poco Inspired Bead Store in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I've owned the store now for, I think it's 11 years. Yeah, just going on 11 years. For me, I got sick 20 years ago, and I was very sick and was unable to work for a year and found out that it was all stress related. Tried going back to regular jobs, and every time I went back, I got sick. So I had quit, and I'd been off work for almost 10 years. Then I went to work part-time at the local bead store just to get out of the house and see real people instead of my four walls, and loved it. Started making jewelry, selling it at farmers markets. I had quit the store for a while, and when I went back, they asked if I was interested in, or they asked if I'd ever thought about owning a store. I said, yeah, well, you kind of have the market on that, so if you ever want to get rid of it. And they said, well, actually we are. So I sat down at my kitchen table on New Year's Day, did my business plan, and opened it up in March 15th as my own. And well, it's been a long 11 years, but it's also been a very short 11 years.
It goes fast, doesn't it? So buying an existing business is a topic that we talk about here a lot on the podcast, and we have a lot of different views on that, I guess, and there's a lot of different experiences around buying an existing business. So can we back up a little bit more? Did you have any retail or entrepreneurial experience?
No, none. I had never worked in a retail store. I had been to Red River College and took HR management, never used it. And I'll tell you what I did learn in the course is nothing compared to real life when you're in it. But no, I had never had any retail experience. I've never, other than as a shopper, I've never been working in retail. It was a very good learning experience.
So I have to laugh because the obvious thing, I did not know about your previous, even though we've been working together a long time, stress related illness. And I actually can relate to that. I had a job that I had to leave because of the same, and now we're self-employed, which is kind of, and I don't mean to funny, but it is just, I know that everybody listening might be thinking, okay, so we gave up one, one type of stress related for maybe a different, not that that's
Yeah.
funny, but it is kind of,
Well,
it
it
is
is.
because there's a lot of stress and anxiety, I guess, around running a retail
Yeah.
business. Yeah.
Yeah. The way I see it is the stress that I have now is nothing like the stress that I had then when I was working for other people and living under their rules and their hours. Although there's much more stress as a business owner,
Mhm.
it's my own stress. It's still something really enjoy. It's something I still love.
Yeah.
And the stress is much different.
Yeah. I 100% understand that and feel that too. I feel like I always say, I see the acts coming if there's like I'm not under the stress of other people's expectations. I am under my own, and I see that with you as well too. Not stress, but it's controllable. I get to control and choose and have direction around that versus other people. I mean, there is a complete difference. I agree. I totally agree.
Right.
Well, let's go back to just tell everybody where you located.
Well, I had said we're in Winnipeg.
Yeah, yeah.
My store actually now, when I first took over the store, we were in a really cute little area, St. Boniface. It's a it's a very close-knit community. When we were looking for a new location, I went from 1,000 square feet to where I'm at now with 3,200 square feet. And the first time my husband took me there, I looked at it and said, not bloody likely. It was in a back lane. It's a warehouse building. I have no windows. I've got nothing but a garage door and a little house door. And I thought, nighttime, this is going to be a nightmare. So he took me back at night, 9 o'clock, winter, and it was bright. It was all lit up. So we're in the biggest retail part of the city, but in a back lane. We're behind the biggest mall that we have in the city, in the back lane, right behind a Michael's store.
Mhm.
So,
That's ironic. Yes, yeah. Yeah.
right, yeah, we sell beads, but they send people to us all the time. It's a hard area to find the first time that try and get there, but when customers walk in and say it's their first time and complain about how hard it was to find us, well, you'll never forget where we are now.
So, and the reason I asked that is because so first of all, for those who do not know, Winnipeg also has a slang name of winter peg because it can be very cold and
Yes.
dark, and so that's why the dark. That's why Cindy was talking about like what's it like in winter and dark because location does matter. So I have a lot of retailers that think they have to be like there is a lot to say around location, 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 but then
Mhm.
there's also a lot to say around building what you need and making sure that people find you if you have the right products as well too. So I knew you were in a hard to find back, and I say hard to find. I've heard you say it before, but people are still coming. So it's 3,200 square feet. That's what you have right
Mhm.
now.
Yeah.
What are your revenue streams inside that 3,200 square feet? What are your product lines and revenue streams?
Well, the most of it is our seed beads. That is mostly what we're known for. I do have other areas other departments of the store as well, but we do workshops. We're quite big in workshops. We've got two separate types of workshops. We've got anything that is seed bead related, that is more the indigenous arts, the moccasin and muckluck making, mitt making. We don't carry the furs, but we do carry all the everything else, the dentalium, which is something that's hard to find, porcupine quills. We've got all of that kind of thing. But then I also teach silversmithing.
Mm.
So we are the only place in Winnipeg to do silversmithing classes and get some of the supplies. We do pop-ups now and then. Not something I like to do anymore. I'm getting a little too old and tired to do them. But we still do occasionally. We do powwows, stuff
Mhm.
like that.
So you're going off-site. So you also have an online component. You have an e-commerce site. So your
Yes.
revenue streams are e-commerce, so the online portion,
Hmm.
in-store, a lot of in-store, and the workshop components, which I think you
Yeah.
have a wonderful mix of all three of those revenue streams. And again, as you mentioned, a few off-site selling, but the powwows and some of the off-site selling am I correct? And I'm only going to ask, I'm not sure of the answer. Is it, those are a lot of that is around marketing, right? When we go offsite to
Yes,
get
yes,
our
it
name out,
is.
right? Yeah. So it's not about
It's
revenue
not
stream
about the
building.
sales.
Right. So, and so for those listening, I think that's a really important part to get in front of the right people to get the word out. And what you do, I mean, I kind of laugh like what we all do, what everybody, every retailer listening to, like we can Google anything and buy a product anywhere, it's really nowadays, right? Like we can,
Mhm.
you know, you are doing so well with your product lines, your online sales, and it's your reputation. And this is what I think you do so well, Cindy, and your team do so well. Could you share a little bit around what you would think, what you think your unique selling point is? Like why Poco Inspired? Why should they, why do they choose you?
That's actually funny because that was one of the first things when we were thinking of no, when I told my husband we needed the online store,
Hmm.
he said, "Why?" And I said, "Why not?" He said, "Well, why you?" I said,
Yeah.
"Well, because we know our stuff.
Yeah.
Because we are, I had never started beading. Actually, I did not do any beading until a year and a half before I bought the store. And I'm one of those people that when I get into something, I am either all in or I'm not in. So I probably had more stock when I bought the store than what the store had. And I learned everything that I could think of, everything that there was to know about beading. I had no idea what I was getting into. I had no idea just how big of a an area that it was. But that's one thing that I really believe is that if I'm going to be selling to somebody, I need to know all about that product. I need to know, my staff needs to know. And we can't sell something that we don't honestly believe in. And it's just beads, but our sign out front says if beading is your medicine, the doctor is in. And people believe that beading is their medicine.
Hmm.
It's what keeps me sane some days.
Yeah. And I totally, I mean, I see the effort and I laugh when you said you're all in on things because I have seen that even in how you run your business, like how you are as with your CEO hat on, and we'll get to that in a minute, but understanding like your people need to trust you. I call that a trust factor, right? You know, like they have to trust that when they come, they're not getting crappy. I know nothing about beads other than our conversations, but like, you know, the quality or the whatever, if you tell them and the tools, I know you sell a lot of tools, like the tools that go with all of these things. So they're coming for expertise, right? They're coming for, but they're also coming for community and understanding. I feel like that's something that you build and do very well in your service of others and your service of what you're doing as well. So, which ties into the workshops, ties into your revenue streams, right? Like going where your people are and understanding their needs and paying attention to what they need and how we need to teach them, whether it's workshops or, and I think you do an amazing job with that. How do you find, I mean, as the CEO, as the owner, as the boss, I know you can't be on the floor all the time. I know that's not part of your mission. That's one of the things that I know you've been working on. We're trying to get our team. That's what we all should be working on. You know, we're not on the floor. We need to have that step into that role of visionary and CEO. Where would you say some of your challenges have been in that role? Has it been a nice transition about teaching that to your staff? Or, you know, where would your challenges
It,
be? I don't want to put anything in your mouth.
it has not been probably until the last year. So 10 years in, it hasn't been until probably the last year that I've started focusing more on the back end.
Mhm.
I always felt like I had to be on the floor. I had to be the one doing the sales. I had to be the one the customers saw. They don't care. They don't care. It's the beads they're coming for. It's not me. I need to be doing the stuff in the back in order for everything in the front to work. It's all the SOPs that you talk about all the time. And well, I'm happy to say I did have them. I just didn't know what they were. But
So I've watched your transition, and I feel like this is a common conversation that I have with retailers. And you know, you're in our mastermind group and in the retailers inner circle group, and it's frustrating as the owner, I think, because we have these visions, and I see I live this too. I still live this. My team listening to this podcast are like nodding their head right now because our ego kind of gets in the way of like, I'm the only one that can serve the customers the way I want to. And
Right.
building that culture, which is not true. That's a lie we tell ourselves, right? I'm the only one who can whatever. And I know that I've watched your transition in that. I've watched lots of other retailers. Like that's the key to growth, right? And
Oh, it
maybe
is.
and maybe sanity as well. Maybe
Yeah.
sanity. I mean, we just can't
Yes.
do it all, right? We can't be at the shop and do all the things. Other people can unpack and count beads, right? Like, does not have to be Cindy. Other people can serve. So what would you say has been, I don't want to say a game changer or a shift. How have you in your mindset, what have you done to get past that to like say, yes, no, they can do it? What are either some practical things that you've done or mindset things that you've done that have helped you with that transition?
It's been a mindset. It's
Mhm.
been the inner circle meetings. It's been mind masterminds. It's been reading the books. It's been listening to other business owners and realizing that I'm not Superwoman. I can't do it all. I need to train my staff to do it so that I can focus on the long-term goals. And I have now gotten to the point where I have a supervisor, which I didn't have until less than a year ago. She handles the floor. She handles the people. I focus on the business. Don't come to my door with the day to day. I don't care. And it's not that I don't care, because I do,
Yeah.
but I can't do the managing and the visionary part of it at the same time. And I've learned my boundaries. I've learned my how far I can go. It's taken a while.
Well, I'm laughing because I can still remember like a conversation that you and I had in a coaching call, and it was around they do absolutely fine when you're away. You finally got them to like you travel quite a bit and to shows and buying trips, and they're fine. And then like a half an hour after you're back or day to day when you were back, you're like they're knocking on your door, like coming into the like we were having a meeting and you were like they're knocking on the door. They're like they can't make a decision, and it's it is a learned thing, right? It is learned. They have to learn it as well too. Just because I'm in the house doesn't mean you have to ask me, where the things are. Like, and it is hard to put that back on them after a while. So I have watched your transition in that, and I think it's so good because I know it's so frustrating.
It
And I think
is.
a lot of people listening, if you are the owner of a business, you feel like you should be doing all these things, like, but again, so tell our audience, I know what you're doing. Tell everybody, what are the things that you do as the visionary? Like, what are those big things that you're working on? Because I do think people get stuck in that as well, too. They're like, well, what does that mean? Like, where are you spending your time now? What is Cindy, the CEO, doing because she's not on the floor now?
Hmm. I can't even believe I'm saying this out loud. I'm I go in, I close my door.
Mhm.
I'm now I'm looking at the numbers.
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure out where is our time best spent as a store? What is
right.
best for our customer? I'm listening to the books that tell me to get away from the floor. I'm listening to you. What am I doing? I don't know that I can even verbalize most of it now. I know what my end goal is,
Right.
and I'm just trying to make sure that I take the steps needed to get there. And
Mhm.
whatever that might be. Today it might be, okay, so the girls don't know enough about this product. Maybe we need to have a class. We need to teach them
Training.
how to sell that product better without being pushy. And I've said this to you before, I have always said that the biggest thing for me in my store with my staff is that if the customer comes in and we haven't done, if when they leave, if today wasn't the best thing that they did coming into our store, then we haven't done our job. So what can we do to make them happier being at the store? Not that you're unhappy going to a bead store, but what can we do that's going to make it better?
Yeah. Yeah. So
You know,
and I love that quote. I've shared that. I've actually shared that, I think, even here on the podcast before. I think I've quoted you on about that, about customer service, about customer excellence, about hospitality, and about
mhm.
really understanding what makes our business different. And for you, that is one of the things. And that line is, that mission and vision for your business is really important. And let me verbalize what I think and I see you doing in the back room when you close that door and you tell them not to bug you, and where I see like growth. And I'm like super excited about this. I see like planning now, and like we're not just going day to day and oh, I hope we get people in and let's do some marketing, and it's not just which, not that you were doing, but that's how we most people run their business, right? We're just, especially when we're like the first few years. But now we're being super strategic. I mean, I know that you come to our plan, you put a yearly plan in place. I know I'm kind of annoying around the planning thing, and even us planners, and I would not consider myself naturally gifted at planning, but I realize I see the strategic planning around it now. So putting a yearly plan in place, how does that serve your life, right? Like, you and your husband, but you run, and he runs a business as well, I know. So
Yeah.
we need to make a living. Like, we need to have a number that we have to take home. Like, what does Cindy want in her pocket at the end of the day? We have staff, we have overhead, we have bills. And what I see you doing, and what I see a lot of our success-minded retailers and ambitious retailers, where they spend their time and where I see you spending your time, is understanding what happened last week in the business, like doing your CEO dates. We call them CEO dates, right? So what happened in the business last week? Where are we? How are we going towards our goals? What needs to happen this week? What needs to happen next quarter? So whether we're quarterly planning or monthly planning, and what's going to get us there. So this customer service element is really important. And I see that you review that a lot. And I know we need our team to be on board.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
need our numbers to be on board. And just prior to us jumping on this call, you gave a really great example, and I'm like, oh, hold that thought, because we'll talk about that on the podcast. When you're in there and you're in your office and you're doing your CEO work, you're looking at your inventory, and you had a realization about a product line. And can you share a little bit about that? And
Yeah.
that metrics, I mean, around the metrics and the math, and what are we looking at? So what were you looking at? And we were talking about earlier.
I was doing the reports on my inventory and taking a look at what sells and what doesn't. And as much as it's an area of my store that I love,
Mhm.
it's my favorite area of the store. I love my semi-precious stones. It's not something that sells. In the end, I came to the realization that I don't care how much I build it up. I went all in last year and bought a whole bunch more, hoping that we could just get the sales up in there. I thought, okay, maybe if we had more
Yeah.
variety, maybe if we did things a little differently. But
Mhm.
the reality is it's not selling. It's less than 10% of my total sales in the store. And that's a lot of retail space that could be used for something that does sell. Our our strong point is our seed beads and our knowledge of seed beads and our everything to do with seed beads. That's what sells for us. That's our business. And I came to the realization that it is time for me to, like you say, niche down. That's what we're good at. That's what we know, and that's what we sell the most of. So let's just do that. It was a heartbreaking decision to make because, like I said, it's my
Yeah.
favorite area. But if it
Yeah.
doesn't sell, it doesn't sell.
And I think that that's a really good lesson for everybody. And I do think it's important to try new things. And I think you did do that. So we are looking at, because I know last year you're like, okay, we're going to, and I do think that's what makes us unique, is like we use our heart and our head, right? Our heart and our logic and our metrics. And we say, okay, I'm going to try this new, I'm going to expand this line. And I know you gave it a go, you marketed it, you did all the things. But
Mhm.
ultimately, the sales aren't there. So there's no profit there. It's space on your counter, on your shelving. Like, it's space that's not, it can't be used for other things.
Yeah.
So inventory dollars, right? You have all the inventory dollars involved in that, just sitting there. They're not making you money. It's like it's money sitting there. So I think it's really important and I hope that people will kind of come back if you've lost, if we've lost you, thinking about your categories that could have taken off. And I think I want to, give you kudos for giving that a go. And it is a favorite part of yours. And so our heart wants to keep it, right? Like I know you want to keep it, and it looks good in the store, and it, feels good to have it there, and it makes sense. But
Mhm.
the numbers are showing you that it's not making sense and it's not working. So we have to, that's the stuff that I feel like retailers aren't doing enough. And I want to applaud you for how well you do with that type of CEO level work, because now you're like, okay, we're gonna do a plan to like reduce that inventory line, right? We'll reduce that, and we'll move something else in or whatever, right? So, and we'll put something in that is making money.
Yeah.
Our heart
Well,
and our,
and some
yeah, yeah.
another part that I didn't tell you too was that in making this decision, I went to the competition. I went
Mm,
to one of the other local stores that does sell a lot of semi-precious, and they do have some seed beads. But I know the owner, and I went in and I said, "Hey, look, I'm clearing out all of that section. When people come into the store, do you have a stack of business cards?" And take some business cards of theirs and hand them out when people come looking for semi-precious. No, we don't carry them, but this store does, and they do a great job. But in return, can you take some of our cards and hand them out for people that are looking for bigger variety of seed beads? Because it's really not their thing. They brought them in a little bit
yeah,
because they got asked for them. So I kind of tried to help out the other people as well.
yeah. And I think a lot of us make assumptions that that's not something we should do, but you know what? That's something collaboration and rising tide, rising
Oh,
tides lift all ships, right? So, I
yeah.
mean,
And
yeah,
to me,
yeah,
it's all in the, if this isn't the best thing we've done today, then, or for the customer, then we didn't do our job. So if I know where somebody can get something and I don't carry it, or I don't have any in stock, I'm going to do what I can to help them to find it. They'll remember that.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that's a fabulous way for us all to think, right? We're not carrying it, somebody else can carry it. And, let's
Yeah.
just be happy for our customers, right? So
Yeah.
that's the hospitality mindset. And that's how retail excellence like what I see you do with your retail excellence is that guiding principle always mixed with looking at your numbers, your metrics.
Yes.
So, and understanding why, why that's not working. So I just want to applaud you for that because I really think that it's a great mix, right? We have to have that heart and the head. That's the heart and the head, like the head being the numbers and the systems and the processes that I see that you put in place. And I just think that's a really great lesson for everybody. I have to ask because I always ask all our guests on here, especially our mastermind, our inner circle members, are there any parts of or any advice that you have for anybody thinking who's on the fence maybe about joining us inside the Retailers Inner Circle or the mastermind group? Because I know you're in both of our programs as well. So
To me, I would just say straight out, do it. I have not regretted the decision for either one of them, the inner circle or the mastermind. And more than what you teach us, it's the community as well. It's it can be lonely being an owner because you don't really know a lot of people that have the same experiences or that have the same problems. Or if you talk to someone that's working for someone else, they don't have the same type of experience, and they can't talk to you about it. They think you're crazy. I sometimes think I am too, but
yeah,
at least being in the groups, other than just our meetings and what you teach us, it's what we can learn from each other in the group as well. And to me, that's a really big thing. It's the community, it's the knowing that you're not alone and there's always someone that you can go to.
yeah. Well, thank you. It's funny because I often say I'm not the expert. I mean, I'm kind of an expert now because I talk to everyone. I guess I am an expert. However, I'm going to own that. But
Yeah.
I don't know everything. I don't know all the marketing things that everybody's learning, but we're learning from each other, right? So,
Yes.
and everybody's sharing what's working, what's not working, and what works in one community is not working in another community. And it's so interesting. I love seeing the support around that as well, too. So thank you for bringing that up. I love seeing, have you tried this? And it's like leapfrogging through things for people, right? Like someone somewhere in this group has done something, around. Has anybody
Yeah.
thought about, whatever? And even just, you're right, the loneliness part, which was the whole reason. And I don't know if I've ever shared this, but the whole reason I started my very first group when I was a retailer, I started a group because not to help, it was because I was alone. I was like in a silo. My friends all thought I was a weirdo. Like, like,
Yeah.
like your 9 to 5 friends, like you just said, like your 9 to 5 friends are your neighbors and your sister and your cousin and your bestie, they think we're weirdos. Like they do not like there's no conversation that was possible with those people. They were like, just
Yeah.
take the day off. I can't do that or whatever. So Yeah, and understanding, and who better to talk to than other people doing similar things. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm so happy that you're part of our groups as well too. What are you most excited about for Poco Inspired this coming year? What's exciting you right now? What's coming up?
Hmm. Being able to do more of what I want.
Mm.
I finally, after how many years, have the processes in place that I can get out and do things.
Mm.
I am now, I've told you before, my end goal. My end goal is to eventually get the business sold. I'm getting to the point I love it. I don't want to do it much longer. I have other plans of things that I want to do, and I feel that I now have a lot of the processes in place that I can walk away. I not just walk away, but I can
Yep.
sell it. I have a sellable business with
Mhm.
everything in place for somebody to be able to just come in and just run it. Everything is there.
Yeah.
And I'm
And
excited to be able
yeah,
to just get out more and not be at the store, not be stuck to it, which is what you get to feel after a while if you're not putting all these processes in place.
yeah. I've seen a big transition for yourself, and I've seen other retailers. The joy comes from being able to walk away for a month, or I know you like to
Yeah,
travel now, and you
yeah.
can leave, and whether it's shows or whatever you're trying to do, and not, and this and the things don't fall apart. And I think a lot of retailers don't admit it, or don't, I don't know if they don't admit it or they haven't. I don't know what if there's a block or whatever. Don't realize that, we should be building a business to sell. We should be
Mhm.
building. I mean, and I don't use the word should a lot here.
No.
I love to say, like, I don't like to should on people, but we should be building a sellable asset, a business that has a sellability to it. Sellability, is that a word? I don't know. Anyway, but
Yeah,
we should
yeah,
be building a business that, and then we get to choose and we have choices, right?
mhm,
So, I mean, whether you bring in a full-time manager and you just do your own thing and your business still runs, or whether you decide to put it up for sale, or,
yeah.
want to retire. I mean, it's
Well,
it's this ego thing that some people think it won't work without me being here. And I love that you're building and you're putting all the
you know,
processes in place. You're looking at it. Yeah.
yeah, the way I see it, there's still so much more that the store can do.
Yeah.
I'm just not the person to do it. I've, I can see all the things that are still doable,
Mm.
but I've done as much as I want to with it right now, and I need to move on to a different chapter of my life. And I use the phrase quite often, business in a box. I
Hmm.
feel that I've got my processes, I've got everything down now
Hmm.
so that somebody can just walk in and if I, and I'm knocking on wood, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow,
Right.
it's there. Somebody can do it. And I don't have to be the one. And I know a friend of mine at the beginning said, because of my red hair, that's what I'm known for, and I should use that in all my marketing. And because people will go to the store and that the store with the lady with the red hair, the curly red hair. Well, she wanted me to use it in all my marketing, and I said no, because I'm not the store. I don't want to
Hmm.
be the store. I want to be able to sell it someday. And if it's associated to the lady with the red hair, then I'm stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, especially knowing that you're going to sell. I mean, I don't think there's a problem with branding around a lot, personal branding around your businesses. I know a lot of people do that, but I will say, and I've shared this many times, I've shared it in our groups, and my business, Front Porch Mercantile, was my, like, was Wendy. Well, everybody knew me, but exactly to your point, when I sold the business and franchised it, I mean, there was a step in between there when I started getting my staff to do it. That was my ego that hurt. It was like at first. So, but then I realized, again, I had bought the second location and I was traveling, I was going back and forth. I couldn't be in both locations. And then it was like, aha, the store is not Wendy. I just happened to be the spokesperson. It's like to say,
Yeah,
like, I'm just currently the spokesperson, but the spokesperson can change, right? Like, now, it can be somebody else. And I
yeah,
love that you're already acknowledging that, because I think sometimes we do get too ingrained in it. But
yeah.
I think that's
I never wanted I never wanted the store to be me or me to be the store.
yeah.
I wanted
Yeah,
a
you've
separate
done a great
identity.
job. Yeah. You've been the expert leader, but there's other expert leaders and you can train other expert leaders. I
That's
mean,
right. Yeah.
experts in
Yeah.
your business. So Yeah, I love that. So anything else to share as we wrap up? I want to honor your time. I know this is a busy time of the year. It's a busy season. Things are getting crazy again in all areas right now as we're recording. It's November. So we're getting into that crazy busy season. And I know that business has been good. Before we wrap up, well, do you have anything else to share before I wrap up?
I don't think so.
No. Are there any marketing or strategies that you could share as we wrap up with our audience? Anything that's working really well for you right now?
The thing that's working the best for me right now is actually planning. I'm actually
Okay.
planned right now
Yeah.
until March, April next year. I've got my planning for events for what we're going to do in the store. I I think even as much as 2 years ago, I would decide 2 days before, okay, we're gonna do an event.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know.
we're gonna do an event in 2 days. Let's do it on Friday. And how are we gonna do this? And I'd pull it all together.
Yeah. That's stressful, isn't it? I
It
mean, that's
is,
like, it's crazy. So I'm very proud of you because I know that I'm very proud of you, like being the pre-planner now, like looking ahead and what does the store need to do and how much do we need to make and what do we want to do and what bandwidth do we have and, all of the things now, right? So
yeah.
that's really helpful. I really think that's helpful. So one quick question, if you had any piece of advice that you wish you had had before starting your retail journey, can you share anything that you wish you'd known in the very beginning?
Oh, so many things.
I know, I know.
Um, it's mostly the join the groups. What else can I say? Join the groups, learn, talk to other people. It's going to be a lot more work than you think, but it's a lot more rewarding than I thought it would be too.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, and I do agree. I think leapfrogging, I mean, I wish I had had a coach at the very beginning or had
Oh,
education at the very beginning, but I don't
yeah,
know, we have this superwoman or superman. I don't know. We can figure it out. We can bootstrap it. We can DIY it. Like, like we have this like can-do attitude, but it's why? Why not make it simpler?
right.
That's
Yeah.
what,
And
yeah.
when I started, I really thought that I'm going to prove people wrong. I can do this.
Yeah, me too.
I can do this on my own. I don't need the help. Back away and leave me alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Then we get
And
smart and we realize we need to ask for help. And they're like,
yeah,
I think the smart people do ask for help if I'm
well,
looking at my back at the history. Yeah.
yeah. And honestly, you don't know what you don't know until somebody tells you.
Mm.
I didn't know. I didn't know how to, well, I didn't even know what a KPI was. I didn't know what I needed to track. I didn't know that I needed to track things. If sales are good, sales are good. How come I'm not getting a paycheck? You know, well, because you didn't plan for it, dummy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
you need to do the planning and you need to know what it is that you don't know. And the best way to do that is talking to other people and finding out what they're doing.
Yeah.
I didn't even know how to track my goals or how to make a goal.
Yeah. Me too. I thought goal planning meant like, I want to be a millionaire, or whatever, like these lofty, like whatever, like goals
Yeah.
were. That's how I used to plan. It's like, okay, I hope a whole lot of people come in today. And I know we've had conversations in our groups around this, like, hope is not a strategy. Like, I hope people come in this week. It's like, no, we're going to plan for it. Like we're going to plan
Yeah.
for it. So that's great advice. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's really awesome. We will add your website and you're on Instagram. I know that, and Facebook as well, all the places. And we'll put those in the show notes and we'll get everybody to go follow Poco Inspired because I think what you're doing is inspiring. And I want to thank you for being here with us today, Cindy. I
Oh,
appreciate, I
thank you for
appreciate,
having me.
yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of the Creative Shop Talk podcast. I'm so glad that you were here to join us this week, and I hope you found value in what we're sharing here. I want to remind you that our website has all of the show notes. You can find it at wendybatten.com/podcast. Everything that you need to hear about today's podcast is there. Also, an opportunity if you need to reach out to me. If I can support you in any way whatsoever, please feel free to reach out. So thanks for joining us. Please leave a review, subscribe if you can, and never miss an episode. We hope to see you back here again next week. Thanks, my friend. Have a great week.